Okay, a very good evening to you all. Wait, before I enter these premises, I was told that I'm supposed to talk to the most interacting audience in Sri Lanka. Am I right? It doesn't look like that. Am I right? There you go. Thank you. Well, let's get a couple of things straight. Before I start my proceedings, I'm not here to deliver a motivational speech, which might disappoint you. And the second thing, I'm not a motivational speaker, and I'm certainly not a professional at that. The only reason that I'm here is basically to address you all about few experiences that I've been through, or at the moment that you might be going through. Okay, well, how many of you all have a plan for the next 5 years of your life? Can I see a show of hands? How many of you all have a plan for the next 5 years of your life? Okay, come on, why is it a minority? At least don't you want to get married? Okay, fine. So you got 5 years, right? And, okay, when I said, don't you all want to get married, the number increased tremendously. Okay, fine, thank you. Well, you guys are really awesome because I don't have a plan for the next 5 years of my life. Okay? You're truly inspirational, but for me, well, I don't have a plan. Well, okay. How many of you are from good English-speaking family backgrounds? Just to see, people who could confidently say that you are from good English-speaking family backgrounds. At least one of your parents could speak English. Okay, fine, thank you. But ladies and gentlemen, when I was in grade 6, I had to make a choice where I had to decide whether I'm going to do my studies in English medium or whether I'm supposed to do my studies in Sinhala medium. But major drawback for me myself was I couldn't speak in English. Believe it or not, I used to go for a tuition class for English while I was only in grade 3. I started going there, and trust me, it was a lovely experience because every day I go to the class, I pay tuition, and right after that, I come out of the class, or not intentionally because the teacher puts me out of the class. Right? That's because I couldn't speak in English, or neither was I the pet of the teacher, who could very well speak in English, as well as her mother could speak very well in English. Right? So, there comes a decision that I have to make, where am I actually capable of doing my studies in English medium? Well, some of you all might decide to do your studies in English medium because you are very good at English. And some of you all, which is the minority, will try to do your studies in English medium because you want to improve your English. Right? Do you all agree for that? I can't hear you. Do you all agree for that? Okay, right. So, I was in the minority, and me being in the minority, well, everyone was telling me, if you do your studies in English medium, you know, the amount of opportunities that you will get, the number of opportunities that you will get will be tremendous. Why? Because you study from a foreign language. Wow, so yeah, there you go, a major unique selling point for me to buy. And yeah, I started doing my studies in English medium. Me being a teenager who can't even write, not even a teenager, I would say a kid who can't even write or speak a single word in English, I started doing my studies in English medium. Fine. For the next 4 years, by the time I reached grade 10, I was always a student who could go to a maximum of a C when it comes to all subjects that I did. It was a major setback for me. Yeah, I tried going to so many tuition classes, so many tuition lecturers which had different styles of teaching. But then, none of them actually worked. The only reason was that phobia that I had inside myself, because what has been registered in my mind is mainly the fact English is not something comfortable for me. Why? That I'm comfortable with rather. Why? Mainly because I've been always out of the class when I was a kid when it comes to English. Okay, but having said that, there comes grade 10. The funny part was, it was not only English I was a C student, even for Sinhala I was a C student. So I couldn't actually make excuses saying I was doing my studies in English medium because Sinhala was anyway taught in Sinhala. Right. And when it comes to the latter half of my studies, when it comes to O-levels, that's basically the commencement of grade 11. I have my entire class scoring around good 70s at least, and class average, if I'm not mistaken, was around 85, and whereas me, I was around 50. That's basically after scoring good for subjects like maths, because I was a student who always loved maths, and English wasn't a problem because I went for single tuition. Simple as that. So it was it the language or was it the phobia inside me? That I had to make a decision whether I have to put myself off my comfort zones and try to do something different, because I didn't want to be a loser at the end of my studies when it comes to my O levels. Okay, fine. There you go. I somehow start learning English, and ladies and gentlemen, it's up to you all to decide whether I can speak in English now or not. Okay? Right. So after grade 11, first term of grade 11, I started giving more attention to what those teachers were saying, and then basically ended up scoring really good. First term, my average was 82. Second term, average was 92. And third term, ladies and gentlemen, doing literature and IT, which was a new subject that time, as well as commerce, my average was 96. Okay? And ladies and gentlemen, the same batch had the island number 1 on that respective year. But don't ask me how I did it, because I still don't know how. Okay? But I just did it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so when it comes to the month of April on the next year, I get my results. There's a huge hype created before the results are released. You know, your friends sending text messages and saying results will be released tomorrow or the day after. I'm sure some of you all might be experiencing this. Okay, so basically, it was, if I'm not mistaken, the 7th of April on the respective year. I get a message saying that results are out. Ladies and gentlemen, the gap between me and my brother is around 7 years. So I was always the pampered one. When I was checking my results, my father was right next to me and my mother was on the other side. We just looked at the screen and yeah, it was a 9As. It was a 9As, and that time 9As was not a majority, it was a minority. Very minority. This is the first time that the syllabus revision took place. If you all remember, there was an instance where so many students who went to examination center fainted seeing the maths paper. This is the same year I'm talking about. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I got 9As, and then so much of compliments as well as so much of pressure coming in my way. If you're a 9A student, you definitely have to follow maths or bio. Commerce is not for you. Commerce is for people who get just 5 or maybe a maximum of 6 A's. But trust me, because of that pressure, I had to take the path which I will never call a successful path. I started doing maths. Okay, so the moment I go for tuition classes, every tuition sir asks, what's your results? 9As. There you go. There's a huge hype about you being a 9A student. And, well, so much of attention being given to you because you're a 9A student. So, then when it comes to the grade 12 of my education life, well, I started joining so many extracurricular activities. I started being the president of the English Literary Union of my school, and I started being the captain of my hockey team, and I started being the troop leader for DC Forum International, and then I started being a prefect, a strict one of that I would say. With all those things coming up, studies was my least priority. Okay? And from this point onwards, ladies and gentlemen, I'll assure you, I'm not ashamed to share anything that I'm going to say. Because this is the bitter truth, what you might face in future. Ladies and gentlemen, the teenage pressure was so good. I started a relationship as well. So imagine so much of stuff right around me. I started a relationship. And trust me, I got selected to represent Sri Lanka at Asia Cup hockey tournament held in Yangon, Myanmar. Trust me, there came a point that my head was like so high, but my scores were like so low. Combined maths paper, grade 12, first term, I score a brilliant 42. And then, when it comes to the same paper, second term, I score a wonderful 36. And then, to make things worse, when it comes to the third term, right before my tour to Myanmar, I get 16 marks. Okay? Well, 16 marks, it was an achievement because all those 6 months, ladies and gentlemen, I'll assure you, I was spending most of my time in Matale practicing, and it was just one day coming down to Colombo just to see your parents, and the next day you have to again take the bus and go to Matale. Okay? So that was the experience. And then, ladies and gentlemen, my relationship was so good, it was happening so much, but having said that, something that added more pressure coming in my way was the parents of the girl started knowing about our relationship. Okay? You guys are so interested about relationship, not about the academics. Wow, impressed. Okay, so when the moment parents started knowing, first thing I know when I come down to Colombo, just on a Saturday, is the fact that my girlfriend by that time's mother has called my mother and asked her to come and meet even. Okay, and basically she has asked my mother to bring my reports as well. Okay. This entire looks like an educational interview, but having said that, fine, okay. When my mother, I'm sure she didn't have the greatest privilege to take my reports because they were like so good, 16 continuously being declining. So having all those elements, ladies and gentlemen, it came to the point where my girlfriend's mother and the father were really opposing the relationship. Okay? Now, there comes the interesting part. I leave Sri Lanka to take part in the hockey tournament. And ladies and gentlemen, I come back in the next year after participating in the tournament for almost 2 weeks. After coming back, I realized I, at that moment, don't have that girlfriend anymore. Why? She was not in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, you might call this dramatic, you might call this stupid, you might call this idiotic, but that was a shock I couldn't actually take. The moment I come down to Sri Lanka, within the next week, I undergo a nervous breakdown. So much of stuff behind my name, so much of titles adding behind my name, I all of a sudden disappear from school for around 1 month. What happens? No one knows till this very moment. This is the first time I'm telling this out in public. Ladies and gentlemen, within that week, right after I came back to Sri Lanka, it comes to the point I tried leaving my house 2 times for no reason. I still don't know the reason. And to make things worse, in the next week, ladies and gentlemen, I tried suiciding 3 times. If you don't believe me, how hard this was, I started hating my parents for no reason. I still don't know why I did that. Maybe it was just the fact that they kept on pushing me to do my studies better. Maybe because of that. If you don't know what a nervous breakdown looks like, ladies and gentlemen, like I mentioned earlier, before everything, my parents are not the richest people on earth. Okay? They tried and they worked a lot to bring me up to the standards that I'm right now. Ladies and gentlemen, they invested so much of money and time on me, and I know that they didn't even invest time in my brother, who's a better person than me. When it comes to the point, they invested so much of time and money, and when I tried the 3rd suicide attempt, I had to be admitted to the hospital. I was taken to a psychiatric, and then he suggested that I take a break, and I didn't know what a break was this time. Well, this break was a one-way ticket to Angada, if you don't believe me. But with so much of respect to my parents, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, they didn't want their child to be in Angada. So they went to one and only psychiatric in-house treatment center in Sri Lanka, right next to Lanka Hospital. There's a road called Park Road. You might know, right? Right in that road, there's a hospital called Park Hospital. And in the 4th floor, if I'm not mistaken, it's a psychiatric treatment unit, which charges you a lot of money. Ladies and gentlemen, my parents admitted myself there. What happens is, all my cell phones, as well as my computers, as well as the television in the room, everything is taken out of the room. Quite interestingly, both my hands were handcuffed to the bed. every single time that I see my mother coming and taking a look at me through that small square glass, I remember myself screaming at her for no reason still, a reason that I still am to find out. I was under a complete clinical depression. For 4 weeks I had to be treated, ladies and gentlemen. I was treated that way, and then when I was good to be readmitted to the society, I come back, and then realize I don't have the car that I used to go every day, travel every day. And I asked Ammi, Amma mokada me car ekko? She says it's in the garage after an accident. The funny part is, ladies and gentlemen, my parents couldn't sponsor the bill. They couldn't handle that bill for keeping me in a private psychiatric treatment, in-house treatment unit. And they had to sell the car. Okay? And trust me, it was a recall that maybe someone above gave me. I don't know. Well, that was anyway late for me to start studying back to A-levels because I had only like a couple of weeks remaining. And but I tried doing it. I tried doing my papers. I did try doing all 4 papers, but I know that I wasn't anyway going to pass. You know, the most amazing thing a parent could come and tell you that moment when you're trying to get back to your studies is, no, don't do that. I don't want to lose my son again. Because she was so scared. Me being her child for, like her only child for like good 7 years, ladies and gentlemen, she was so scared, she was so attached to me. She said, no, exam mein karena thora kamak naha, prashnayak naha. Mari ready mage puta watina. That's the only thing she said that. I still hear those words echoing in my ears. And okay, so in the month of December, I get my results. And same crowd gathered, my mother right next to me and father right next to me. We just went in front of the laptop, entered the same examination number, ID number, and there comes the result. It's 2 S's and 1 F and A for English. Well, I didn't know actually how to respond, because the same parents who were like tearing with joyful tears like the last time that we did the same thing, right now I had them both having their hands on my shoulders. Trust me, if you could like imagine the same situation, it was a hell of a call. And well, I did the same thing, tried looking at my mother. She smiled at me, and she just walked away, and I know she was having her hands on her face, crying. Ladies and gentlemen, I was such a disappointment. They did so much of things, tried personal tutoring, sponsoring me for all the tuition classes, and then giving me everything that they could. Well, but me, myself, I just ended up being such a disappointment, a big time one. And then, I didn't know where to go, but for sure I knew that I don't want to do my A-levels again. And then I started doing my higher education. And to sponsor that, I know my father took a quite substantial amount from my relatives, because the initial deposit was like so high. They came and gave it, and they deposited in front of me. And I'm privileged, and I have so much of respect for them for trusting me again, trying to invest time and money on my future. Ladies and gentlemen, this was some years back. And then, recently when I graduated, I just took a look back, and I realized, for the last 4 years, I have done so much of things just to make sure that that initial deposit of money by my father from the sponsorship of my relatives was the only money that they have paid for me my entire higher education. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not an inspirational speaker, I'm not a motivational speaker, I'm just one of y'all there might be so many other people who might have bad experiences, a psychological, a nervous breakdown, 3 suicide attempts, and 2 runaway attempts. I didn't know what I was doing, but then I was a teenager. Thank you.